All right. What's up, peoples? Welcome back to the Evening People Show. I had a show yesterday too, right? And I started yesterday's show by singing. If you missed that show, you should go check out that show. I was singing my little heart out. You should have seen me. All right, but if this is your first time joining the show, thank you so much for joining the show. On the Evening People Show, I interview folks. I talk to them. We sing, we laugh. I think we even dance once. Oh yeah, we stream concerts. We do all kinds of stuff on here. What you realize is that a lot of the folks that are on the show, contrary to popular belief, I don't know them. I don't know them in real life, but they're just people who I connect with long distance, and because of their vibe, we just kind of make it work. And because of that, we always have a positive vibe on the show. We always have an upbeat vibe. We always leave you with something you can take and go sit and ponder, because that's just how we do here on the Evening People Show, right? So like I said, if it is your first time, welcome. If you're joining via YouTube, shout out to the YouTube fans. You know what I mean? Like, subscribe, share, hit that bell so that you know we go live. As I mentioned in the show yesterday, I'm going to start uploading a lot more videos, but they're not going to be live videos. So you have to subscribe. You have to hit that bell so you get a reminder when those videos come out. All right. So I'm really kind of dilly-dallying here, giving some folks some time to come on, but y'all know I ain't going to dilly-dally too long. So if you're late, rewind and come get the rest. My guest tonight is somebody who I think is kind of like my guest last week. Like I should be on your show. Like, you have a legit show with legit camera people, with legit camera angles and co-hosts and all these things, right? Well, here you are on my show, and I appreciate these things, man. I do. So my guest tonight made it so easy for me. You have no idea. I usually sit down and, sift through people's information to get what I'm gonna say when I'm introducing them. My guest tonight has her own book, and it says it all on the back, so I don't even have to guess. So my guest tonight is Stacey-Ann Smith. She's a creator and executive producer and host of the hit TV show It's a Woman's World, an entrepreneur, a speaker, a corporate communication specialist. She is also the engine behind Danrak Productions, a Jamaican media content production and communications business. Listen to how that rolled off my tongue, innit? And she is also a published author of a phenomenal book called Time Does Not Heal. And she has some good camera people. These pictures are so good. I was looking at them. They're so nice. Look at it. I love these pictures, Stacey. All right, without further dilly-dallying, I'm going to introduce my guest to the show, Stacey. How are you?
I am wonderful, Martin. I'm wonderful. I'm nice and dry inside. You may know that we are experiencing some wet weather.
Likewise.
In Jamaica. Yes. And Elsa is outside kicking up all kinds of rumpus. But I'm inside. I'm dry, thank God. Really hoping that it passes quickly, because even though I am nice and dry, there are lots of other
Yeah.
people who are
And there
negative
are
in the
places
past.
in Jamaica that can't deal with wet for too long at all.
Exactly.
I'm with you when you're right, my dear. I'm with you when you're right.
But
It
I'm
is
good.
lovely to have. It's lovely to have you on the show. Lovely to have you on the show. My book came. My book came like yesterday. I've read a few pages. I intend to get into the rest of it. But like I said, it's a pretty book. It looked very nice, very nice, very nice. I like it. I like it. All right. So
Thank you very
um,
much.
yeah, I've watched in playing catch up with my potential host. I with my potential guest. Sorry. I watched several of It's a Woman's World. That is a beautiful show as well. I like the set. I like your co-hosts.
Them
Them
nice, don't
nicey.
it?
Them nicey.
Them nice bad.
You are nice. I saw several episodes, but there was this one where you ladies were on a trip. It looked like I gotta go to the got y'all went to Reach Falls in
Them
Portland.
draw me out, Martin. Them draw me out.
That is probably one of the most beautiful places I've ever been. The trip
True.
there was beautiful. The place was beautiful. The trip
Yeah.
back was, I remember I went there one time and I had my brother-in-law who I was there. I had him stop the car and I went over and looked. Cause we drove past some water that was the bluest water I'd ever seen
Nice.
in my life.
I
It was
tell you,
beautiful. It was
Portland,
breadfruit, plantain.
Portland is by far the most beautiful parish on this island that has a lot of beautiful parishes. Can I tell you?
Yes,
But that
yes, yes.
place, it's almost unspoiled. It's just pristine. There's a something
Yes.
that it's almost out of this world.
It's almost like it's been uninterrupted by the outside, almost
Yeah.
like it's still a habitat, and it's
Yeah.
a beautiful place.
Yeah,
Like
man.
that place stood out. I've spoken about that place when I saw it, and I'm like, Reach Falls. I know Reach Falls. I got so excited because I'm like, I remember going to that place. It was beautiful.
Mhm.
It
Yeah,
was,
man.
it was
Nice.
cold when I went there, though. I felt like the water was still a little chill, like it was colder
Mhm.
than the beach would have been, but it was beautiful, though.
Beautiful.
Yep. All right. So let's do this. We're gonna get straight into it. Yeah.
Mhm.
The people are probably not used to me on a Sunday anymore. Right? They used to be on a Saturday. So the ones that come late, lucky. So let's do this because I was saying all that to say though, a lot of the interviews that I've seen with you recently, especially since the book came out, they're kind of they're moving in a similar direction. They're wanting to find out about the book. They're wanting to find out about the stories behind the book. I don't want to have that same interview today. All right. I think you've had enough of those interviews. We're not going to do that again, right? What are we gonna do though is we're gonna use that information as our stepping stone or as our base that we're gonna stand on, and then I'm gonna have you now, as the professional that you are in so many fields, addressing certain things, related things, but we're going to we're
Sounds
going to
good.
we're going to put them out there, right? All right, so let's do this. The first thing I want to find out from you, Maria, let's see what I have here. All right, now talk to me about therapy, the therapy of writing. You wrote your book. A lot of emotions are put out there. A lot of realness is put out there, but there's a certain therapeutic there's certain therapeutic properties in writing.
Yeah.
Now, you recently, like I said, evolved your accolades to adding author to it. Several painful experiences. Did writing the book act as a sort of therapy for you? And can writing be therapeutic?
The answer to that is yes, absolutely. Writing can be therapeutic. And Martin, you are an author as well.
I
And I mean, prolific, might I add. And so that even outside of publishing a work, whether it's an anthology or fictional piece or
Mhm.
memoir, whatever it is, just journaling and writing down your thoughts can help you in that healing process. And as long as we are around and we are living, Martin, things will happen to you.
True.
As me and a friend of mine talk about all the time, life has a way of just kicking you in your face.
Right in your face, right?
And when it does, you have to find ways to cope, ways to be, ways to still continue to be who you are and to heal. So it's so important to find that thing that or a combination of things that will help you through the process. And for me, writing definitely helps in terms of that journey, moving to your place of wellness, moving into back to your peace of mind. You know, it's very important for me, and I'm sure it is for several other people who write. As I said, whether you publish or it's just journaling that you do.
And yeah, like you said, if it is just journaling, there's a certain difference that it brings when you actually see the emotions on paper.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's almost like we are used to responding to things in that way. We study to pass tests, we study for exams and so on. So it's almost like there's a certain different aspect, a different dimension that it takes on when you can look on paper and see. And it's almost like it unlocks a different part of your processing in the brain. And you approach it differently just because you're seeing it now on paper versus just feeling it on the inside.
And I can tell you, I can share with you as well, even through a process of therapy, because I was in therapy for quite a while, as I share in the book. There were experiences that put me in a very low place. And part of my journey to healing involved therapy. And during those sessions, my therapist would give me different exercises, right? Document that. Think about how you felt when this and write it down. So there is value, certainly from a professional standpoint. I mean, the therapists do use writing as one of the elements that they use to help people to get through. And we really did quite a bit of that writing down thoughts, writing down your feelings, sometimes writing an open letter to somebody that may have hurt you. So some of those techniques are also used in the process professionally. So there is tremendous value in writing for therapy.
All right. And there you have it, people. So if you want to have something bottled up inside and you can't say it, write it on paper.
Write it down.
It'll help you process it. Even if you actually don't have the conversation with the person that you should have the conversation with, you putting it on paper almost gets it out anyways.
Yeah.
All right. So if you didn't know, now you know. So let's look at this. The prejudice now. I'm drawing on this because several of the interviews that you've had, you spoke about your grandfather, the type of person he was, and certain things that you, let's call it, suffered at his hand per se. Right now, it's a bigger thing. It goes beyond that because it really is ingrained in our society. So I want to ask you a question related to that, and the question is: the prejudices of shade or color by our older generation of Jamaican people has helped to shape our perception as a society of ourselves or of self. Now, how does that present itself? I'm asking you multiple questions at the same time. How does that present itself? What are the effects of it? And is there a solution to it?
Wow. Martin, I wish I could tell you that I had a solution for it, but this is a problem that is multifaceted. It is so deeply ingrained in our psyche as a people. And I wish I could say that it was unique to our society, but it's not. The kind of colorism that we live and experience here in Jamaica may be a little different from what exists in other places, but I can tell you for sure that there are commonalities among countries that were colonized, you know, or we do share quite a bit with other countries, other nations who have been colonies and where slavery was a dominant factor in the origin of our nation. What can we do about it? I think we have, in many instances, not addressed it as directly as we could or as we should. Sometimes you hear people talking about It's going back to slavery, and some people say, why you keep talking about slavery? Slavery was such a long time ago.
Right.
But the impact has stayed with us. When you hear in the let's say as recent as the 1980s. Am I dating myself if I say 1980s was recent?
No, man, you're good. You're good.
As recent as the 1980s, which would have been more than 100 years after slavery ended. Many years, 20 or maybe 30 years after independence, you still have people, and even today, you have people who say, nothing too black, no good.
Mm-hmm.
And people talk about, in our culture, you still have people who are bleaching their nice, beautiful melanin.
Mm-hmm.
Big up your shirt, though. I like it. For true, I like it.
Yeah. I knew it would have come in handy.
When you see people physically harming themselves, and I can talk to you also because I know your connections with the education sector. When you see in schools teachers, black women mainly, who are policing black hair, black women who are offended by black hair.
Mm-hmm.
And I can tell you, I still have a daughter, a teenage daughter who is in high school. I have many friends who have children at different levels. There are people who in our society are still offended by blackness. Then you know that we're nowhere near coming out of the impacts of colorism.
Mm-hmm.
How are we going to move further away from where we are? Two things: exposure and education and love. We have to talk the truth, Martin. Yes. We have to accept that we have a problem.
Yes.
You can't fix a problem unless you identify it. You have to say, we have a problem. We have to all agree. And up to this point, especially in the schools, we haven't got to the point yet where we can recognize that there is a problem and that the school system, not just the school system, but our society on a whole still sees blackness as being an issue. I tell you, I challenge you. Google right now unprofessional hair and see what the images are that come up.
No, I don't have to Google it. I don't even have to Google it.
You know what I mean? So we are far away from where we should be, but we have to start with the education. We have to start with accepting that we do have a problem. And then we have to get to the point where we can love ourselves, truly love ourselves, love who we are, and really celebrate. And there has been some work on that level, in terms of celebrating blackness. But I don't think we are doing that enough. And that is what we will have to do in order to get over this hump.
Yeah, and I think it has to be approached by everyone at every level. I think that's where we fall short. It's like you said, more needs to be done. Things are being done, but it's too little in only some sectors, and other sectors just leave it alone because they don't care right away, or it serves their purpose the way they want it.
They're just uncomfortable. There are people who are just uncomfortable talking about it, but because they're uncomfortable doesn't mean it's just gonna go away, and it doesn't mean it's not real. And it may not be real to you, but it's real to other people.
And people, like one of the questions I'd asked was how it presents itself. And for you were saying, granddad would almost want to put clothespin by your nose.
Yeah, not almost.
He was indeed.
he used to put a clothespin on my nose right here in the bridge of my nose.
So
and it's too big. So you have to use, and it's not a unique practice, it happens.
No.
Right across Jamaica.
And there's several other things too.
Clothespin on your nose to bring up your nose, because God forbid your nose should look like a black nose.
And there's several other things that we do. There's several other things that people do even to today, as it relates to their children, as it relates to their girls, especially. That is trying to, and sometimes I don't think they were aware of it. Sometimes I don't think they're aware of it. There are people right now who I knew back in the day who when you have your little lighter color skin girlfriend, is like they're more
Mhm.
receptive to them. Family
Yes.
members are more receptive to them. That if you have a little darker skin, it's almost like they actually, without even consciously realizing it, they
Yeah.
gravitated toward lighter.
Hmm.
You know what I mean?
Because
They have.
somebody told you that browner is better. The closer
Mm,
you are to the white skin, the better you are, the brighter you are, the
mhm,
better your prospects. So
mhm.
clearly, if your daughter come home with a guy that's brown, or your son come home with a girl that's brown, then you have a better chance of succeeding in life.
Oh my God! But you know what though?
And
At one
that's
time
what
that
as it
was the
is
case.
in some instances, Martin, it's true, In
Mhm.
some instances in Jamaica, people will give you opportunities based on the color of your skin.
It's almost and it's the same thing even here too, where the approach that is taken with black males per se, even by the police, is a different approach than they take with white males.
Hmm.
The same, even the same police. So it's almost like the perception. Chronic puts it very well. He says they never told us that black is beautiful. And throughout that song, he listed a lot of things, just the way that we present black versus how
Yeah.
we present other things. And it's like we have to start deliberately making an effort to say, hey, black is okay, dreadlocks is okay, what your hair does naturally has to be okay. And if you think you have to do something else to it, just stop for a second and think about what it is that you're doing.
Hmm.
You know what I
And,
mean?
and and it could be that you choose to do something else, but it shouldn't be that you choose to do something else because
Because right,
you hate the natural. You
or you
hate
think it makes you
dark.
less than or less beautiful or less desirable or less anything.
Yeah.
Choice, yes, choice, absolutely, choices are choices, and you should choose whatever you makes you happy. You know what I mean? But if it is coming from a place of, where, okay, you know what, that actually brings me to the next question I have for you, talking about coming from a place of, right? You mentioned in an interview you had, you were answering a question and you said the lens. This is when I'm like, I like this person. When I heard you say this, you said the lens, because
I'm
I've used this
listening.
reference myself. You said the lens that you're looking through will skew everything. And
Yeah.
you mentioned that when you were talking about persons viewing themselves from a broken place,
Yeah.
and you're saying that how they view themselves are their options, are their choices. Now, talk to me about the downfall of making life-altering changes from a broken place. That's question one. Talk to me about that. And does media and social media affects this perception?
All right. First part of your question around the lens that you look at the world through. For sure, Martin, if you are looking at the world through a lens that says, I am less than, I am not worthy of, I am not capable, I am not forgivable, then of course you are going to make decisions that follow that thinking, that follow that self perception.
Mhm.
Think about it. If you really believe that you are worth the CEO position at the company,
Mhm.
you are in a position where you could get that CEO position, and you really believe that it is something that you are capable of doing,
Mhm.
that um, maybe not entitled to have it, but you're very sure that you would do a good job,
Mhm.
then you wouldn't leave that company and go necessarily to work as a janitor
Right.
somewhere else. You wouldn't be happy to be offered a janitor position. I
Mhm.
mean, somebody offer you a janitor position, you would have said, really, brother? Like, come on. Because you know your worth.
Yes, the
Depending on
style
your
must tell you.
personality, you might say to them, say, man, move from here, say, yeah.
A
Or,
stallion tell me. Stallion
yeah.
tell me straight.
Or you might say, thank you, but no thank you, depending
Mhm.
on your personality. You might even
Right.
tell him too material too.
So
But for
that's true.
sure, you would not accept that post because you
Mhm.
really understood your value. You
Mhm.
knew your experience, your qualifications, everything about your mindset said CEO.
Mhm.
Same thing happens when you perceive yourself to be less than. I talk in the book about believing that I was fat and ugly for many, many years, and how that set me up for poor decision making.
Mhm.
If you really believe that, John, oh, you know something nice? God know you know nice, you know.
Nice and true.
Then there are some things that you are not going to settle for. Whether it's a job, whether it's a relationship, whatever it is. If you really believe that you are worth peace of mind, you are worth respect, then you won't tolerate disrespect.
Mhm.
Simple.
Mhm.
How does social media impact? Uh, Tremendously. When you consider, just like when we were growing up, I don't know about you, but when I was growing up, we never really have any internet and so, but we had TV and thing, and we
True.
used to watch like with Falcon Crest and with Dallas, and then we
Dynasty.
hear Dynasty, can I tell you? And the representation of beauty was white,
Slim.
thin,
Mhm.
yes, long hair, either very curt, whatever
Curly
style
or
it
blonde.
was, but it
Mhm.
was very Eurocentric, that
Mhm.
kind of look. And it did shape your perception. All the ads on TV, I never saw a girl on TV like that look like me. Never ever saw
Mhm.
a girl
Not
on
back then.
TV
Not back then.
look like me. Absolutely not. Everybody on TV, all of the ads was brown or Indian, because if you them say you have good hair, right? So if it can be as coiled and as curly as mine, it need to be straight or close to straight, right?
Mhm.
So you never saw a representation of beauty that looked like you. And right now, we do have greater representation of beauty. Don't get me wrong. I mean, certainly in the last 10 years, you have some fabulous women who are plus size young ladies that are just absolutely gorgeous.
Mhm.
You have a phenomenon called plus size models, which you never
Yes.
had
Yes.
before.
That was not a thing.
That was not a thing.
Nope.
Although you had people like the Naomi Campbells of this world, the Althea Lengs of this world, who were breaking the glass ceiling back then and going into modeling, as beautiful black women, you didn't have larger size black women who
Mhm.
were able to be represented.
And the thing of it too, though, Stacey, sometimes the stuff that they had to go through to get there, you
Trust me.
see, there's this thing where we put the one in a million person out there, the Barack Obamas and the, what I mean, like you
Mr. C
mentioned,
here, that you can do it, man. You
he
cannot
can
do it.
do it. It can be done. Yes, it can be done. But does any black man, like any other man, have the same opportunities to do it? Or are these just once in a lifetime
Yeah,
anomalies that get there? So, yes, it can be done by these
yeah.
people, but the playing field is not exactly level.
Definitely not. And it's not set up for you to get to that level. The negative thing about social media now is, and I have to tell my children this, I tell my daughter especially, a lot of what you see, most of what you see is curated content. It's not real.
Mhm.
And it gives young people this impression. Sometimes when you see many of these persons who are 17, 16 years old, these YouTubers, gamers who are making like
Stupid
crazy,
money. Yeah, yeah,
stupid
yeah.
money, as you say.
Mhm.
And I have to say to them, yes, we applaud them, but this is an anomaly. This is
Mhm.
not
It's not
normal.
everybody. No, it won't be
Not
everybody's reality at all.
everybody's, no, it won't be everybody's reality. So you have to temper it. Yes, you see people doing all these amazing things and you celebrate them, of course,
Mhm. For sure.
but don't think that this is the norm. This
Mhm.
doesn't have to be your reality. And then don't begin to think that, oh, I'm wasting my life because I'm 17 and I'm not earning six figures. It's
Right.
crazy. Like, you're 17 and last week you're born. What you talking about?
That is the truth. It's true. But I think though, even persons from these broken places, um, they have to, I think what it is sometimes too is like the mind. You see, because the mind, you have to be in control of the mind, because when you're in these broken places, it's almost like you mentioned yourself, that you'll find yourself even in relationships that you're not supposed to be in. You'll find yourself in saying yes to things. I did a show recently called It's Okay to Say No.
Yep.
It's okay to say no. You know what I mean? And it's like you'll find yourself, because your mind is just not right. The lens, like you so rightly put it, the lens that you're looking through is skewed. So even though you think you're seeing clearly, everything that you're seeing, it's still coming through the perception of whatever is reflected on that lens. And if you're not at a place where the head screw on right enough, you're not gonna see it. It's gonna be passing. You won't even be able to. You ever see somebody depressed yet? And them not even know say them depressed until them coming out of the depression. Then they look back and say, "Wow, what on earth was going on with me? When did I add 30, 40 pounds? When did I do this? When did I do that? When did I like?" It's almost like while you're going through it, because that's the only perception you have. You can't see that you're going through it, and it's almost like you're living in a shadow of yourself, And until you can clear the fog or the smoke clears, you can't see clearly.
And that is one of the reasons, Martin, that I am actively promoting this business of emotional well-being. A lot of the reasons that people have skewed lenses is trauma. Things happen to you. And a lot of it goes unresolved.
True.
And you carry that baggage. You carry those issues along with you into every aspect of life: work, relationships, family. And if you are not in a place where you have dealt with those issues, can exhale, really stop and assess what is happening or what has happened to you,
right on it,
and then resolve it so you can move on. Chances are you're going to make bad decisions. Chances are you're going to sabotage the opportunities that you get. Chances are you won't be able to grow and to thrive in the way that you need to.
Chances are you can't see the opportunities that you could potentially have because you can't even see straight.
Martin, nothing saps your creativity like bad energy, and emotional abuse and trauma, You can't even sit down. I mean, if you're a writer, everything block off, you can't not even write, you can't write,
No, you're right. There are times when I can literally, if me could have write with me two hands, there are times when I could have simultaneously write multiple poems at the same time. I want next time me write half. And the vibe done. I never force the issue. If the vibe stop flow, me just put on back the pen and paper and that. I've had times when I've gone back to, I have these scratch pads that I use, and I have a dozen of these in the house at any time. There's one, if you think a joke, see one here, one more this and one over this. And that's what I write on, and I'll go through these and I'll have 15 half-written poems on them. You know what I mean? But the vibe stop, so I stop writing. And then if there's a day when I write something done, I'm gonna feel like, okay, you know what? The vibe still aflow. I flip through and read something I wrote. Yeah. And if whatever comes next comes to me, then I'll keep going. You know what I mean? But yeah, and then there are times when I don't write anything for months.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And like you say, it's just when you're not in the headspace to really receive certain things, to channel certain things, you just don't. Now, this brings me to our next point, actually. We're talking about being in a headspace to channel something. Now, when I wrote this question, or when I thought about the question I'm going to ask you next, I'm like, I wonder if the lady I go actually answer the question. And I wonder if I go hit too close to home.
Ask away.
No, now ask. Yes, I go ask. We're old friends, right? Now, check this. You mentioned, right, that your grandfather and his concept of self, the colorism bias that he have, the clothespin on the nose and all these things, was a byproduct of his time in history. right? He perceived the things the way he perceived them because of where he was, what his history was, and how he came up. Now, your ex-husband, your ex-husband's behavior, more specifically, the outside children that he had, does that behavior not fall under that same logic of him being a byproduct of his
For
environment
sure.
at the time?
For
And
sure.
if not, why and what constitutes the difference? Or let's just talk about that for a minute.
For sure. For sure. Martin, I can share an experience. I work for an organization that's part of a global conglomerate,
Mhm,
multinational, right? And we have team members who come from different places in the world. And one year we had Father's Day, and we were celebrating fathers, and we wanted an opportunity to I think there was something that we wanted to do with fathers, that we were going to reach out to the children, of the not the children of the fathers, their spouses.
mhm.
This was, I mean, we didn't get to the point yet where we had executed it. We were part of a planning session and we were talking about it.
Right.
And when we started to talk about it, immediately somebody said, no, that not gonna work, because we have several fathers who have several different children, 3, 4, 5, 6 children with different women.
Right.
It's something that the international assignees, the expats, just couldn't understand. I mean, these are men who come from other parts of the business in Europe, South America. There wasn't anybody from the US. It was mostly Europe and South America, who said, oh, that's weird, that's strange. And I mean, they were blown away that it was so prevalent. It wasn't a one-off kind of thing.
Right. Right. Right.
And it was strange to them that you could have so many men, so many employees who had multiple children, 4, 5, 6, and with 4 and 5 different women. So this is part of our culture. It leads to, and in many instances, I mean, you have social anthropologists like Dr. Herbert Gale, who has written quite extensively on this issue of fatherlessness. It leads to fatherlessness, because you and I know you're one person. There's no way for you to be a proper father for 6 children in 5 different houses. It not gonna happen.
Impossible.
It's not possible. Some of the children are going to be left out. Even if you see them once a week, that's not enough time for you to be there for them, to raise them, to guide, you cannot do it.
I want to tell you something real quick. I have one biological daughter and what I call one bonus daughter, right? And my daughter just left. I was just waving bye to her. And I remember years ago, we went to school for something for her. And the teacher said, I don't know what, something I said hinted the teacher at the fact that she doesn't live with me full time. And the teacher said, she doesn't live with you full time? I'm like, no. She's like, really? I said, no. She's like, I didn't know. Based on how she talks and how she talks about you, I thought she lived with you full time. You know what I mean? And to be able to do what I do and be who I am for her, just the logistics alone of picking up and dropping off to her events, I couldn't do it.
If you had 4 more like that, would you be able to do
it? Couldn't work. Without a shadow of a doubt, it could not work. There's not enough hours in the day for it to work.
Forget about the financial aspects of it. I mean, what about that? There is really no way for you, especially if you are working an ordinary living. Let's say an ordinary job, nothing that is 6 figure, even 6 figures.
Even if it's 6 figure, and you want your lifestyle to be a particular way.
Yeah, you may be able to afford financially to take care of your children. But emotionally, will you be able to be there for them? Socially, will you be able to be there for them? And Jamaican society, unfortunately, we still have a huge issue with that. I remember many years ago working at a radio station and doing some research for a documentary we were working on, and we were looking at a program that was being executed in Trenchtown. And at the time, the data said, this was maybe 10, 15 years ago, 85% of the households in those two communities that we were looking at did not have a father.
85%.
85% of those homes, if there were 100 homes in those two communities, only 15 of those homes had a father that lived there with the family.
Which means there are 85 potential boys or girls that are growing up without the guidance that a father gives.
Yeah. And the statistics are just mind-blowing. When it comes to things like teenage pregnancy, when it comes to things like the likelihood of you dropping out of school, the likelihood of you joining a gang, the likelihood of you committing a crime. I mean, it is just absolutely mind-blowing, the connection between fatherlessness and this business of deviance, if you want to call it that. But it's real. It is part of our society, and people don't talk about it. People don't talk about it enough, I think. But
now, let me ask you this. Could it be that the presence of that kind of creates some of the brokenness that we referenced before?
Yeah.
And these two things together are what perpetuate the condition?
Most certainly, Martin, it is cyclical. I mean, one thing leads to the next and it continues in a cycle. I mean, if you grow up in a household where you don't have no father, nobody teaches you how to be a man, because I don't need the women to come for me. But the truth is, as great a mother as you are, you cannot father your children. It's not possible, So even if you are doing a great job as a mother, you can't teach your son to be a man. You can't do it. In many instances, you may need some support from the community, because it does take a village. So you may have to find some kind of mentor or somebody who can help him to learn how to be a man.
True.
So if you have a scenario where you have your boys who are not learning how to be men, who don't learn how to love and care for the women, your girls who the first man will tell them, say them love them, I want little fool man who are try get under them crap. You understand? I mean, this is part of, as a person, the things that you need and you want to nurture and to take you into a healthy kind of space. I mean, without that, you are going to end up in situations where you are targeted by all kinds of negative persons with nefarious intent. You are going to be targeted by the narcissist. You are going to be targeted by and I will call it out, pedophiles, because in many instances you have some horse-steering man.
They're out there.
40 years old who are looking 15-year-old.
Yep.
And without that kind of grounding, these children, these young women, even 18, 19, you are going to fall susceptible to those kinds of things.
But the thing of it, kids are still kids, Kids are still kids. When I was 17, I thought I had everything figured out. You couldn't tell me I didn't. I knew everything. I knew everything there was to know. When I was twice that age, I realized that, okay, maybe I didn't know as much as I thought I knew at the time. And just with our kids now and the more exposure that they have, a lot more than we had with our 2-channel and Dynasty and Falcon Crest, right? They do think they have it figured out. They do think they do. My daughter recently got a job. First interview, got the job. She's 16. It's just something she's doing for the summer. I prepped her. We went and bought her outfit. We made sure when we went there, she was nervous. And I was kind of chuckling inside. I'm like, oh my God, you know how you behave? Now here you are, both you're nervous. So I talked to her and she went in there, she represented when she get a job. I called her 2 days after her first day. She said, Daddy, I'm so tired. So I said, how long did you work? Like 6 hours? They don't. I'm like, look at girl. Maybe they work 6 hours and not even lunchtime yet.
Try 16.
You understand? You come off frost. You frost off at 6 hours. 6 hours, but they work and not even lunchtime yet.
Please.
But the thing of it is, though, you realize that in spite of how well spoken they are and how they present and how they look, they're still just kids. Exactly. They have a lot to learn. They have a lot of things they don't know. You still have to teach them a lot of things. And sometimes I take it for granted even until something is said or done that makes you check yourself and say, you know what?
Yeah.
As big as they look, as mature as their bodies tend to be these days, from younger ages, they must still just look a picnic. And you have to take active steps to train them into things because they don't know.
True.
They don't know. All right, check this. Now, and this actually takes us, wow, this is flowing so well. This takes me right to the next thing I want us to talk about. Demonstrating what love is to our children through our lives is sometimes not the easiest thing to do based on our reality. How important is it to raise functional members of society that we mirror the behavior we want from them, and are people as aware as they need to be about how important this is?
Boy, Martin, I tell you, if you start with that premise of being a whole person, of being functional, of being yourself as a person, because you need to be in a good place so that you can impart, so that you can empower, so that you can truly love and deposit in your child in the way that you should, so that they in turn will become a functional and functioning member of society. You can't do that, you can't pour from an empty cup. You can't give them what you don't have. Which is why it's so important for you to start off with focusing on making sure that you are a whole person. If you look at those persons who are doing well, those persons who are functional, those persons who are contributing to the community, look at the people who holding down a good job and doing most of those people. And it's not to say that you can't contribute in a meaningful way to society if you don't have it all together. Because God knows none of us is perfect and we're all works in progress. But those people who have major issues that they have not been able to deal with, the cycle is going to perpetuate. You won't be able to, as I say, pour into your children and help them to become functioning members of society if you haven't handled your business.
It's a, like you say, it's cyclical. It's and it's a, I don't know. I wrote a poem called "The Life We Live." It should come out in my next book, and it kind of it spoke about some of these scenarios. And in the end of the poem, it says, "In this episode, we have no solutions to give. This is just the life we live." Because I took it up, look at it, slice it, dice it. I mean, I know the solution. I don't have the solution. So literally, I put it on paper, just the same way. I said, in this episodes, I have no solutions to give. This is just the life we live. And I think that's how the last two lines of the poem goes. But it talks about these same scenarios, of a family making a sacrifices to try to make the kid, a daughter in this instant, have a better option for her future. But somehow she ends up in the same cycle, the same cycle, and it just gonna keep going. So I don't know. I can't say I have solutions. What I would say though is, for those of us that can do better and that know better, make sure that we're taking those deliberate steps for the people that we have.
In your sphere of influence.
I have two nieces, love them to death, and they spend several summers with me, and they can tell you, Just ride in the car with me, go from here to there, and y'all will get a speech at some point. Whether going or coming, y'all get a speech. One conversation just want to come up. May I each figure a speech at any given point. Because me don't know if nobody else I give them the speech. May I make sure say anytime them they with me there. And the opportunity to present itself, me I give them this speech. Any speech when me think say me can't give them, when me think say
You continue to pour in, pour
yes,
in, pour in.
yes. They might hear, they might not hear. But may I make sure say me, when they are where I am, they are going to get the speech. And if one of the speech stick, and make somebody think twice about something, or make somebody reach higher and go for something that they would not have, then that's it. That's all I can do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And the ones you can't reach, you can't reach. Now, the very next question I had for you, I think we addressed along the way. So the last thing I'm going to ask you before we transition into some poetry reading and such is how is the book doing? How is the book going? How are things with that?
It's going well. It's going well. God is good. I'm telling you, I have been asked to speak in many different platforms. I did a conference with my church family just this last week. And can I tell you, it was really, really good. Several women reached out to me afterwards and said, boy, your story sounds a lot like mine. And you know, people are inspired to know that you can go through some things, no matter how long you go through it. As long as you have life, you can overcome. You can get to a place where you can begin to heal and to reclaim your power and to reclaim your life. And as you said, if you use what you have and the platforms that you're given, and if only one dege person, Martin, who it connects, then it would have been worth it.
Then it's sometimes I don't feel like having the Evening People show. Sometimes I feel like to scratch my whole social media, to scrub my whole social media profile and platform and no bother with, because in real life I'm not that. In my normal day to day, I'm not this person. The company I work for over 15 years. I may never hang out with nobody when I work with outside of work yet. I'm not that guy. I like doing my thing on my own terms.
But you have a message and you have a platform, and so you have to use it.
People reach out to you after the fact and say, man, this was said or that was said, and it had this impact on me. You can't deny that. You can't deny that. All it takes is one. You know what I mean? Because all it takes is one. You just want to make sure you just want to know something you said.
And it's worth it.
I had somebody on the show the other day, Natoya Perkins tell me she do. She failed all her CXC them back in the day the first time around. Have to go to school by herself, send herself back to school, fail maths like 5 times. And she has taught in Jamaica, in Japan, and in the United States now.
Look at that.
You understand? Now, if she at any time decides she had showing the towel, she wouldn't be doing what she's doing now.
Yeah.
You understand? Now, when you have people like that can come on here and share their story in that very candid way, that anybody who was thinking about, you know what, it rough, me I go drop it, me now bother, me I go just, and you see that somebody actually persevered throughout that and still come out. Now, the lady teach on 2 different continents, right? One of them will not even speak when English are the primary language, right? And has traveled to and is doing very well now. So as long as there are those stories out there and somebody might watch at some point and can gain something from it, we just have to keep doing what we're doing.
Same so.
All right. You're on the Evening People show, and on the Evening People show, we read poetry on here. Yes, it's what we look at you. It's what we do. Stacey, what are you going to read for us today?
I'm going to read Being in Love.
Being in Love. And if you're joining late, the poem is coming from my book, Love Life Confrontations. Expressions, selections from the Chronicles of a Black Man, available in Fontana Pharmacies and on Amazon.com. Now, we're going to read Being in Love. Whenever you're ready, my dear, go for it.
Being in love. It's not a destination. It's a journey. It's not like keepsakes assigned to me. It's not a point for which you reach. It's not a vault that you can breach. It's more like an instinctive notion, not the kind solicited by potions. It's an intrinsic, cognizant reality shared by 2 in a state of unity. It's an ongoing decision you make. It's measured by the actions you take. Its nature is as pure as gold. It emanates from the mind, body, and soul.
Yes.
It's illogical in a rational way. It's insane in its propensity to
Propensity to
stay.
stay.
From day to day, it's simple and true, all inclusive, yet about me and you. Being in love is saying yes when you mean yes. It's saying I don't know when I could guess. It's realizing when a plan no longer works. It's walking away, even though it hurts.
It's walking away even though it hurts. Ay, ay, ay. You handled that, madam. You handled that very well.
I love
Thank
it. I
you.
love it.
Yeah. You did that. You did that. That was done. That was handled. I appreciate that. Now, let's get into it. Being in love. That's a really nice poem. I like being in love.
I like it.
Now, like I said, sometimes I reread this poem and I can't even imagine what kind of whatever made it up at the time when I wrote it, right? All right, but check this. Love means a lot of things to a lot of people. Now, does stanza one address any misconceptions you think people have about being in love? And I'll reread stanza one real quick. It says, "It's not a destination, it's a journey. It's not like keepsakes assigned to me. It's not a point for which you reach. It's not a vault that you can breach." Does that address any misconceptions you think persons have about what love is?
So, and I have to go back to my dad, who told me many years ago that love is an action word. And we do have this perception of romantic love that says it's about this feeling. And we know, Martin, you will have this feeling. But love is, as you say, it's not a destination. It's an ongoing process. It's a doing. And I think it really does address that misconception that it is a place you arrive at. And it's also something that I give to you and you keep it. It's something that you have to share.
Right.
It's about that journey, and it's about that the doing and the living of it. So I do think that it addresses some of those misconceptions about love.
All right. I feel you. I feel you. Now, stanzas 2 and 3, kind of broad strokes what love is. Can someone in a broken or incomplete state truly love? And is there not is love therefore not contingent on the lens that one is looking through, constituting what their reality is?
That one is a tough one. I mean, I don't want to say that you have to have it all together in order to really love. And the truth is, because we are all sum totals of our experience, what love looks like for me is going to be different from what love looks like for you. There is this really good book, long time book by Gary Chapman, I think is his name, The 5 Love Languages. And it is how each of us perceives love and wants to be loved. And you can see love in a different way. And because you don't have it all together, that doesn't mean that you cannot give and receive love.
Right.
The truth is, in order for you to really love somebody, you have to be honest with them and they with you.
Right.
Because sometimes you can be in love with somebody who's not even a real person because they haven't made themselves vulnerable enough to show you who they really are. Which is why communication is so important.
But I guess the reason I asked this question the way I did, because we established that the broken place affects perception, right? Now, if the broken place, all right, so put it this way. I'll put it to you this way. Can someone from this broken place love someone, right? And when they actually get to the point where they untangle whatever entanglement they were entangled in, and come out on the other side, they realize that, you know what, I actually don't really love this person that I thought I loved.
That could be possible, you know. That could well be possible because, as I mentioned to you before, if where you are is, as you say, in that broken place where your judgment is cloudy, where you probably don't even know what you yourself want, you could get to a point where you take off those lenses, you take off those rose tinted glasses, and all of a sudden, what you are seeing and what you are looking at isn't what you want. So it is possible for you to love in the way that you are capable at that moment,
Right.
and then later on recognize that this isn't for me based on the growth that you have achieved and the healing that you have gained.
Hopefully you're not in too deep by then I have the option for back out, right?
Hopefully.
No.
Which is why I keep saying you need to invest in that emotional well-being. Invest in it. It's important.
All right. I concur. I concur. Now, where does financial standing fit into love? Is it an asset or a liability? What are the factors affecting love in today's society, whether positively or negatively?
I don't know that financial standing really plays a role when it comes to love.
But let me ask you this before you even go any further. No, let me ask you this. I'm glad you heard me. Let me ask you this. Now, what I'm let me try to word this properly.
Tell me what you want to ask, Martin. Talk it out.
No, it's not that it plays a role in love per se, as in it needs to be a characteristic of, as in a building block of per se, but can't it slant what our perception of love is or what we need in order to love? So if I'm say we have been using the broken place, I'm in that broken place, and a characteristic of my brokenness is a financial deficit, and I perceive someone who can potentially assist me in that area, and I love them. However, it is contingent on their ability to assist my current situation, and that is why that's almost like the vehicle that the love is in, and I'm driving in it. However, it's not the love itself.
You just answer your own question, Martin. When you
Wait, I wasn't trying to.
you love them and it's contingent on, that is not love. That's not love. I mean, you're determining that somebody needs to have a particular, be in a particular socioeconomic group or category, or they need to have a certain status in order for you to be with them. That has nothing to do with love, brother.
Not true.
That has nothing to do with love. Now, don't get me wrong. I believe that it is just as possible for you to love a rich man as it is for you to love a poor man. It's just as possible. I'm not suggesting that you should go out and only try to date poor men to prove a point that you are not a gold digger. Not at all. Right. Neither am I saying that you should go out and only look for rich guys because, you know, you don't want a poor man. But I'll give you a story, Martin.
Give me a story.
My father and my mother divorced many, many years before he died. They separated when I was 17. And after several years, he met and married a lady who had also had a first marriage. They both had all of their kids already. And Martin, when I tell you, say, the kind of love that I saw them have was just so inspiring. When we talk about the two people, them, you don't see one without the other. Even when they were friends. Even when they were not together, I mean, she would go to camp sometime, he would be off doing something. They were so close. They complemented each other. And they were not wealthy by any stretch of the imagination. I remember when he died and, you know, I was with her and we had gone to the funeral home, and she sat down for a minute. I mean, just devastated. And, she said, your father didn't have a lot to give me financially, but I would never trade him for anything in this world. And I know that they were happy. They were just like ridiculous happy because it's possible. I mean, them live in a them little house in the country, them have enough, but it wasn't like, oh, we're bruff. You know what I mean?
Right.
But they loved each other and they were happy. They never need money. They didn't need money to be happy. They didn't need money to love each other. And I mean, I could share other stories of people who they really don't have a lot in terms of financial things, but they love each other and they are happy together.
No, I concur. Mind you, me just ask a question, miss. You rough me up, so like me advocate, say money and love go hand in hand. But just ask a question there. I feel like you rough me up a little bit. All right. Great answer, my dear. Great answer. Now, why did you choose this poem? What aspects of this poem speaks to you?
I love love. I love love. Love is so important to life. I mean, not just romantic love.
You sound like I'm a book title here, Love and Life. Go and talk if it's a confrontation expression.
I am telling you, it is so important to making life worth living. And as I said, it's not just about romantic love. It's about the love that you have for your children, the love that you have for your parents, the love you have for even your co-workers, the love you have for your neighbor, the love that you have for your sister, for your brother, the love you have for your friends.
Love you have for yourself.
Love you have for yourself. I mean, there are people in my life who, if I call them at 2:00 in the morning, 3:00 in the morning, I give them 15 minutes and they're here, maybe less. And them are gonna come, and then probably they're not gonna ask me too many questions, Me just call and they're here. That's love. I have one friend who said she just want to know who may fight. She will get to me like, when we don't fight, she will say, well, we did not fight both states.
What if I don't?
What we are fight both.
No, but if your friends aren't like that, what's the point?
So yes, the poem is really skewed towards romantic love. And as I said, I love love. It's such a beautiful thing to have somebody in your life who you love and who loves you. And I'm a romantic like that. I really do believe that you can have that person who gets you, who understands you, who compliments you. That person, as they say, who is your ride or die. Yeah.
The B side.
The B
side of the 45.
And let me tell you, it still is something that just fascinates me, and I love to see it. I love to see when people are together and you've weathered the storms and you can hold on and you really have each other. You know what I mean?
No, I concur. It's a beautiful thing.
So I was drawn to being in love because I just love love.
You just went straight for it, huh? Being in love. No, it is a beautiful thing. I concur. It's a beautiful thing. I like, and a lot of the poems that I write too, and persons are asking, they're trying to tie me to the poem. So they see the poem, they know I write it. They're trying to fit me into it, and I always have to explain. So all right, I'm gonna say two things. One thing, when the book came. And I got the first copy sent to me to proofread. I said to my wife at the time, whatever is in this, because a lot of the poems have a date on it. So I said, whatever is in this book that predates us meeting, I'm not going to answer anything about. I won't answer any questions you ask. I have nothing to say about it. I have nothing. And she read it and she was fine until several months later I came home to a book with half dozen pages folded and all kind of sticky notes in them with all kind of questions. And I'm like,
Best believe it.
what is this?
Best believe
What
it.
is this about? I said I wasn't going to answer any questions about anything. But for me, it's like a lot of the poems, they have nothing to do with me per se. It has to do with the fact that I can perceive love. And when I see it, and it's such a beautiful thing, if it triggers something in the mind and I write it, there's several poems that I've written that I've left voice notes to myself. Then I go back and write it from the voice note.
Nice.
Or I have a brother and I have my daughter who they know when they see random messages I send them, they don't even ask. They know that it's some part of a poem that came to me, and I just decide I don't want to lose it. I don't want to lose it because trust me, there's been too many times I said, "Me now go forget, me now go forget," and then you forget. So now I make a deliberate attempt because sometimes you can get such beautiful things from it. You can observe two people crossing the street,
and be inspired.
And be inspired because you see in that moment, you can see love on them. You know what I mean? Mind you, conversely, you can see something else on them that inspire a different poem about something else.
Of course.
But at the same time, you can definitely see something about them, and it's just inspiring. You know what I mean? Okay. My mom and my dad. My dad loves my mom to the point where he is physically sick when she's not around.
Wow.
Physically sick. He gets sick, he lose weight, he lost appetite. When my dad and he talks about, I wrote a poem called A Husband's Love, I think I call it. And I wrote it to my mom from my dad.
Yeah.
I don't know if I put it in the next book or not. But hearing him talk about her in her absence, it fills you up. It almost makes you want to float away.
Nice. Wow.
Hearing my dad talk about my mom, it is one chromosome shy of magical.
She's his person.
One here line short of magical.
She's his person, clearly.
My dad is dysfunctional without me. You hear me? He cannot lift a straw without and I'm telling you, I've lived with him when she wasn't around, and he just go off on these rants, not rants per se, as in yelling, just monologues about her.
Yeah.
And he'd be like, oh, Barbara, boy, she's so good. I tell you, boy,
so beautiful.
She get up and she do this and she do that, and he just goes on and on.
Man.
You got it so bad. You got it so bad. This many years later, you got it so bad. My mom got it so bad.
That's what I'm talking about. And after many years, she is still his person.
Yes, she is. She's 100%. I'm bloody tearing up here. But yeah, she 100% is his person. Okay. I'm gonna move on here because now I'm gonna see me tear up on my own show and stop it. All right, let's look at the first two lines in stanza 5. Okay. What I'm going to ask you about that is what aspect of the relationship does it speak to and how important it is. Now, the first two lines in stanza 5 says, being in love is saying yes when you mean yes. It's saying, I don't know when I could guess. How important is this perspective, this point of view as it relates to being in a relationship or being in love?
So my interpretation is around communication. And as I think I mentioned before, you have to be willing to be vulnerable in order to really love and to receive love and to really make that connection with somebody. Being in love is saying yes when you mean yes. It's saying I don't know when I could guess. It is about, and I mean, I have no idea what your thought process was when you wrote it, but
don't worry, you're here for your expertise, my dear. Your interpretation skills.
My interpretation is that it is about communication, and it is about making sure that you are true, not just to the person that you love, but true to yourself, and saying you don't know when you could guess is about always being open to the other person, always ensuring that you give that person a voice and you allow them to speak, you allow them to say their piece and not making assumptions, and keeping those lines of communication open so that you can talk things out and you can hear their perspective and their point of view.
Now, how important are these things in a functional relationship?
Oh my gospel, Martin, it's not going to work without it. It cannot work. It cannot work. It cannot work.
Wow.
Because so much about love and relationships and life is dependent on communication. I mean, being able to say what you feel and being open and vulnerable. It's a gift. I mean, most of us go to work and we're not able to say what we feel or to be very open or vulnerable. I mean, it is so precious when you do find that one person on the planet who, no matter what you tell them, you are safe. It's safety, psychological safety. And it's so important that the person that you love and that you're in that relationship with, you can be safe with them and you feel that level of safety. Without that,
You know what came to my mind just now as you spoke is the vulnerability you mentioned and what we spoke about earlier as it relates to why some men, like you said, when you had that conference and men from other societies, from other countries could not see how or why, or men, do what they do as it relates to relationship and multiple kids and so on. And I think, and I don't know, like I said, it just came to me. I think the vulnerability aspect plays a part in it. The fact that you have to be vulnerable in order to love in a particular way. And I think we were always groomed and trained, not to show emotions, not to show weakness, to be tough, to be just, you know what I mean? It's almost
I want to challenge you, Martin. It's not about that men were not trained to show emotions. It's the kind of emotions that you are trained to show. So for most men, it's okay to show anger as an emotion. Anger usually is the go-to emotion. It's fine for you to get up and cuss and this and that, but it's not okay for you to show fear. It's not okay for you to show love, because all of those things
are weak.
And God forbid that you could show some kind of weakness. And that is at the heart of our problem. And as you said, unless you are really vulnerable and allow yourself to be vulnerable with someone, you can't have the kind of connection that you really need, such as your parents, to build and maintain a lasting relationship. So in many instances, it's just a hookup. You like the girl, she look nice, she round, she brown. You just connect. Before you know it, I mean, nobody now really do this, protection thing. You have a youth. Then now you meet another girl, she round and she brown, and they have a next.
They have another youth.
I reach another one, and it just, before you know it, I mean, there are people who have 16 children. Like
14 different baby mother and they can't take care of two.
Like what?
No, I not get it. I not understand it. And it's like, that's why I kind of asked the question about the broken place that people are, because some of the times a lot of these women know about baby mother number 1 through 7.
Of course, but I think they're special.
And they still allow themselves to become baby mother number 8. I don't get it.
You think you are special and it's not going to happen to me, and I am nice and
yeah, good as. Boy, I don't know. I don't want to be no good as. So let's do this. The last 2 lines of that same stanza can be viewed as a negative turn in relation to the rest of the poem. How do you view these last 2 lines and coming to the awareness embodied within them? I'll reread. They say, and it comes right after the last 2 we just read, but it says, it's realizing when a plan no longer works, it's walking away though it hurts.
Yeah. Sometimes love is about putting the best interest of the other person above your own.
Mm-hmm.
And you could be in a scenario where you recognize that this relationship isn't the best for the other person.
Mm-hmm.
And loving them could mean letting them go.
Not true. And it's not a bad thing. It's not a
No,
bad thing. It's not a negative thing. It's the right thing to do. And I think sometimes we, like you said, you don't have to. There's two things I want to say real quick. Two things. I think a lot of relationship involves sex too early.
oh,
And
look
because
here.
it does,
We could
it's
have talked for
too
one whole hour
provoking.
about that, Martin. One whole hour about that.
You know what I mean? And I think sometimes a lot of people think that because um it's almost like because that happens, we are now somehow tied together, and we don't really have to be. You know what I mean? As I don't know. For me, in relationship, it's always been. I think every relationship is unique in the sense that it can exist in any conditions or under any conditions, as long as the two people that are in it understand the situation.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
True.
Any
True.
relationship that I've ever found myself in that I don't think the other person has the same perception I have of it, I take steps to clarify it. And if my
Yeah.
sister then just nah hear what me I say, I'm gone. Because
Of course.
we're gonna it's easy if you coexist with somebody in an alternate reality, you know.
Of course.
You understand? So it's kind of like back in the day when you used to have these ladies, these ladies from the church who married these men who never ever go baptized, but they tell themselves that the man go baptized after they married him. If they married him, they go baptized, and it never ever happened yet. It's kind of one of those. Anyways, you were saying about you were we're not gonna put myself in that trouble with you. Here's
No,
this.
I'm not going down that road with you any at all. So,
So,
gone.
so we were talking about you know, walking away even though it hurts, and you know how this is viewed as well as the awareness that it embodies as far as how we should go about this whole relationship thing. Any other thoughts you have on that?
No, I mean, for me, it really is about loving the other person enough. This is my interpretation, loving the other person enough to say, this is not working. This isn't good for us. This isn't, it's not good for me, or it's not good for you. It's about being brave enough,
Mm-hmm.
loving yourself enough to say, I have to walk away.
Mm-hmm. Some of the comments. Let me look at some of the comments that are coming in here. Katie Bocha, she's in New York. She was saying that some vital information is sometimes hidden from
Hidden
you.
from you.
Mm-hmm. Tanasha
Yeah.
is in Kingston. She's saying girls have to be
You have to be a
detectives
detective.
these days. Katie is back and saying, so you're unaware of how many children exist before your
Yeah.
relationship and child. So yeah, and this is a lot of times it goes like this. You know what I mean? The cart gets so far in front of the horse that it can't possibly work. The horse is supposed to be in front of the cart, dragging the cart. And
Yeah.
so many times so I want to tell you this. So there's a poem I have in the book. Wait, name? I don't remember. But it talks about, there's a line in there that says, waking up the next morning, but your surroundings are strange. And you're looking around and looking at yourself for evidence of sex. Almost like you had such a wild night that you wake
You
up the
don't
next
remember.
morning. You wake up the next morning and you're looking around. You're not quite sure where you are. You're afraid to look over across from you. You're looking down at yourself to see if there's any evidence out there of something.
There are instances that I know. I know of one instance where this young woman was involved with this gentleman for quite a while, and didn't know that he was married.
Mhm.
Um, but then by the time we started to talk about it and we started to unpack and look at different things, there were signs. There were signs. I mean, at the point where she really was just blinded by the emotions. And I know it's hard, but it's something that sometimes you have to stop, step back, and really look at what is in front of you. Sometimes we see some things and we explain it away. We brush it aside. We say, oh no, it's this or oh, but
Mm-hmm.
in many instances there are indications, and sometimes it's not even any major evidence or anything. It's just that little thing in your stomach, that thing in your belly
Mm-hmm.
button. We say,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
so it's not feeling
Warning
right.
lights flashing. There's another poem in
Yeah,
here called Gray Areas. Is a with the
yeah,
warning lights flashing and you tiptoe in. Okay, say something off.
yeah.
So walking straight. You look around and
And
tiptoe in.
you feel it, but you don't know exactly what it is. But then there are also instances where people live in the same community. So we're not talking about instances where women are deceived. You ask direct questions, and for all intents and purposes, everything looks as they say. We're talking about now instances where you're living at the same community. The people them live two roads over. Some live over there with them baby mother and them family, and then you drop in right now.
Mm-hmm.
You
Mm-hmm.
just
Mm-hmm.
drop in yourself in there. And there are those instances too. And you say,
Like,
what could have caused why you do that?
what could have caused this? Like Tanasha say, you're in love. The butterfly them, a flutterfly,
But
the
because
butterfly in your chest.
yes, we do it. It's true.
Mm-hmm.
It's true. You see the red flag, them waving it like how them wave it at Dover. And it says signal in the plane, Martin. And I do that.
You're
But
gone in same
one
way.
night, same way.
It got some on, it got some. It's true. Now, before we wrap this up, any other thoughts you want to share about the matter of love, being in love, young love, or any such matters?
Well, I mean, I don't know if young love is different from a more mature love in that I think the feeling is the same. The difference with experience is that you've been around the block. Hopefully, you've learned a thing or two.
Mm-hmm.
Young love is sometimes characterized by immaturity.
Mm-hmm.
In many instances, it don't really last because you're not asking the right kinds of questions, and
Mm-hmm.
it's not coming from a place um, of reality. It's not informed properly,
Right.
and therefore it goes a little wonky. But hopefully, once you are mature and you're going into the thing with your eyes open, it can be amazing.
All right, so I'm going to throw something at you here while we're at it before we wrap this up. Now, on the flip side of that, there are so I have a lot of professional female friends, very accomplished women, and they're single. They don't have any children. They're up and down on the age range scale. Um, and how should I ask this? I don't know what I'm trying to ask here, but it's almost like, is there a thing where you become so aware or so, I don't know, so eyes wide open that you could essentially be shooting yourself in the foot as well because nobody is actually good enough anymore, or nobody is good enough because Mr. Right would have to check so many boxes for you that you just don't give nobody a chance?
I'm sure that happens for some people. Um, they the general thinking, and I mean, I've heard it said here, and I know, based on social media and media in general, that there is this perception that there are fewer eligible men than there are women,
Mm-hmm.
and eligible based on criteria that society has set to
Mm-hmm.
say, the man must have this, that. Um, so there are persons who will stay single because as you say, you need a man to check too many boxes and you can't find anybody who
Nobody will check them with a
all
box.
of those boxes. But on the flip side, I would want to believe that if you are sure of what you want, then you should not be afraid to say, this is what I want.
Mm-hmm.
And if you are getting something that is not what you want, to be mature enough to say, this is not what I
This is
want,
not what I want.
and be okay with that. Because there is this perception that because you don't have any man, because you don't have any children, something wrong with you. I don't believe that at all.
Not at all.
I don't think that as people, whether men or women, you have to be in a relationship. Not everybody is suited for marriage, you know.
True.
Not everybody is suited to be a parent either. But we are so socialized in that way to think that as an adult woman, if you don't have a child, something wrong with you, or it's automatic that you should want to have children. I know I have a friend of mine who doesn't want to have any children. We are, well, she's a year younger than I am. She doesn't want to have any children, and she's not had any children. She's over 40 now. You should be okay if you don't want to have any children. And as soon as you say you don't want to have any children, people begin to say, oh, you're selfish. Which I can never understand that thinking, because we're selfish. Why we have children, Martin?
Yep. A lot of the times.
It is because we want to create this other person that looks like us that we can influence. That's why we do it. It don't have anything to do with the children that were in the arms of Jesus.
No, I concur.
It is about us. And in many instances, you have people who are parents who are not equipped. They're not prepared to make the sacrifices. They're not ready to have children.
They're children themselves sometimes.
Because they feel pressured to have children. And back to your point about, women who are accomplished, who don't have any children, or in a relationship. I would say, be okay with the choice that you've made. Be okay with your choice. I mean, you can choose that I am going to hold out for Mr. Right, whatever shape or form he may take.
Right.
And if you not find him, okay. Life is more than just being in a relationship.
No, absolutely.
You can still have a fulfilling, meaningful life without being married or without having somebody. I mean, I'm not necessarily advocating for you staying.
No, as long as you're comfortable with the decision that you make, whatever that decision
any
is.
way it works, you should make it so that you are happy, because you can find happiness. That happiness starts from in right here, so, and that's the first thing you have to acknowledge. That happiness isn't going to come from you having children. It's not going to come from you finding the man of your dreams. You need to be a whole and a happy person long before you buck up that gentleman or that lady.
See him so. All right, closing comments now, my dear. Anything you want to share with us about you, the book, your book, my book, and what is next? What can we look for from Stacey-Ann Smith?
Oh, what's next? What's next? I'm actually writing a second book, like you. I know.
There you go. There you go.
Steps, Martin.
There you go.
I'm maybe more than 80% complete with my second book. It's an anthology,
Nice.
a collection of short stories.
Okay, cool.
So I'm going fiction next time.
Okay.
And I'm working on that. And that's pretty much my pet project right now. You know how it goes when you do have a 9 to 5.
9 to 5, right?
Let me tell you. But I do try to find those moments, that time. I'm going to find a little time to do a little writing tonight. It's a very nice and cool Sunday night. I'm just gonna sit down and
the rain up and work. The rain up and road,
let my thoughts just flow.
I feel you on that, my dear.
Yeah, so that's what I'm working on now. But can I congratulate you, Martin?
Thank you
for this platform and for this work that you're doing. Your poems are really, really, really nice, and I just want to wish you all the very best with your next publication. And this has been a really, really nice conversation. We did like it. We like it. We true.
Appreciate it, my dear. Appreciate it. All right, folks. That was Stacey-Ann Smith. Stacey, thank you so much for taking the time out of your Sunday afternoon to come chat with me. And we will do this again, right? Whether on your show or mine.
Of course.
All right, take care. All right, peoples, that is the ball game. That is the ball game. I love me some Stacey-Ann Smith. You can't tell me about her. I like her vibes. That was a really good show. I hope you guys tuned in. And I know I kind of sprung a Sunday on you out of nowhere, but here we are, right? So we have to make it work. So whether you view this, you viewed it live or you'll view it later, it was a good show. Definitely check it out. A lot of salient points that came out from my guest today, and it was lovely having you. So as I'm about to wrap this up, like I said, check out the YouTube, check out the Facebook, get the book. Everybody come on the show telling us that the book lit. Oh, now wait when I come joke business to the one. But anyway, as you will find out, when it's time to go, I don't dilly-dally. I just be like...